Dad, I'm getting wrecked. Can't I buy some stronger units?
Your grandfather didn't give his life just so his grandson could pay money to be good at something.
Dad, Grandpa's still alive.
Son, your legacy awaits.
This Blizzard StarCraft 2 free-to-play commercial debuted 4.5 years ago, and oh boy have times changed since then. Don't you guys have phones? And what Blizzard actually meant was, don't you guys have wallets? Because that is what Diablo Immortal is all about, your wallet. Which isn't a surprise to anyone. I talked about this in a recent video. There was a lot of positive coverage on Diablo Immortal with some people who had some playtests with it. But the big question was going to be monetization, and yeah, Blizzard certainly went out of their way to take the mobile gaming industry by storm with some absolute horrid microtransactions. Again, nothing that's really that surprising, but this is just yet another example of this AAA games industry showing how horrible they can be. And if you are a fan of Blizzard, somebody who's looking forward to, say, maybe Diablo 4, this should make you terrified, because there's a very good chance, I wouldn't even say it's a very good chance, it's probable that there's going to be microtransactions. And if it's going to be handled the way that it's being handled in Diablo Immortal, Jesus Christ. But yeah, this is a week that we should be getting excited for gaming. We're probably going to see some gameplay reveals of Starfield, Avowed. We'll probably see a new trailer for God of War Ragnarok. It's the not E3 week here in June, but we're starting off the month talking about one of the biggest disasters in the last year, and that says a lot because Blizzard seems to always have a disaster. The last couple of years, they have done themselves no favors, just non-stop executives and creatives leaving the company, the multiple lawsuits with all kinds of controversy surrounding that, and then there's just the numerous delays with Diablo and Overwatch, and I still don't even know what the hell Overwatch 2 is actually supposed to be, and now there's new worries for Diablo 4. It's just a huge mess. We also have something else I want to talk about involving a former Blizzard developer, which garnered a lot of reactions from this entire video game industry. All kinds of developers from companies like CDPR, Rockstar, Sony, and etc. chimed in with a very horrible opinion that an ex-Blizzard developer had about video games. But whenever that Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft merger finalizes, Phil Spencer and his team have a lot of work to do with this company, because it is an absolute train wreck right now. Top to bottom, it needs to be completely restructured. The way that they're going about game development is just so broken. And unfortunately, with a game like Diablo Immortal, while I do think that the outrage is warranted, and what we're going to be discussing, it's absolutely horrid what they're doing. But the issue is that this is something that has been working. This is something that's been going on in the mobile gaming industry for years. We had one Twitter user, let me see if I can find it, DJ Wheat. He said, if there's one thing I've taken away from the microtransaction takes of Diablo Immortal, it's how many people have never dived deep into mobile gaming. So many feel like this is the downfall of gaming, when in reality, these systems have existed for years. But the sky isn't falling. Now, I understand that a lot of people are just going absolutely insane about the totals, like, oh my gosh, to fully max out a character in Diablo Immortal could cost over $100,000. The issue is there's numerous mobile experiences out there in which there is documented proof in which whales have spent, or I think they're called krakens, have spent upwards and more than $50,000. So this isn't new for the mobile gaming industry. This is what the AAA gaming industry wants in on. This is what they've wanted to bring to console gaming for the longest time. But Star Wars Battlefront 2, that whole loot box debacle, and all of the microtransaction scandals, Shadow of War, that was a big one as well. All of that is kind of pushed back. There's always been some concern about this, but slowly this is seeping in. It's getting worse and worse. And there is a reason why we need to push back against this type of monetization. So a lot of you may not actually know what Diablo Immortal is. It's the mobile Diablo experience. It can be played on your phones or PC. I played it on my phone, my fat fingers. It didn't go all that well. You'll see that maybe in some of the gameplay in the background. But regardless, I had a fun time. Now the issue is, I played a good 4 to 6 hours, and I started to run into a huge grind wall near that level 30-ish. That's right around there. And unfortunately, this is something that goes on until the end game, and this is by design. This is what Blizzard intended. This is what all these mobile gaming experiences do. They give you a taste of the enjoyment and then they take it away, and they pretty much try to entice you into opening up your wallet and spending money on microtransactions. The thing is, they're not going to give you X item for $10. It's always a bunch of loot boxes, gotcha games. This is just how it has always been. It's trying to get you to spend a couple of $100s. This is the psychology of this. These companies have psychologists literally involved in the game's development, especially in the mobile scene. This is what it is all about. Now we have Forbes with this excellent write-up about what's actually happening and why this is a pay-to-win disaster. So as Paul Tassi writes, the XP wall that you will eventually hit happens around the mid-30s. I think it started around level 31 for me. It carries around until the end game at the 60 level cap, as the game turns into much more of a slow grind, and I've seen that myself. But for this middle section of the game, the answer isn't really just to spend money to make progress, it's to grind and grind and grind specific activities to rank up your free battle pass for big XP gains. And yes, Diablo Immortal has its free and paid battle pass. It also has a bunch of different currencies and all kinds of other things you can buy, loot boxes, and all with like a 0.005% chance of getting the super rare item, something that is going to cost probably hundreds of dollars unless you have some really good luck. Once you beat all of the story content, there's nothing left to do other than get stronger and craft endgame gear sets, and this is where things get complicated and expensive. The main culprit here are legendary gems. To get these gems, you must have crests, and crests come in two main varieties: rare, where you'll get a free one of those every day, and legendary, where I just hit my monthly purchase cap of 1 after completing challenges, and there are 1 to 2 more in the battle pass at higher ranks. Now, Twitch streamer Asmongold kind of demonstrated perfectly the issue with these legendary crests. So in this video that's uploaded on Asmongold's channel, you'll notice that he puts 3 legendary crests into this Elder Rift. This Elder Rift is pretty much a dungeon that's loaded up. You beat the boss, you get a bunch of really high-end level rewards. So once he completes this, because the legendary crests were used here, he gets a ton of legendary gear and legendary gems, with a chance of maybe rolling some of the best items in the game, something not possible without these specific type of crests. Again, the ones that I believe if you're not paying for Diablo Immortal, you may get 3 a month. Compare that to others who open up their wallets, they can probably use hundreds of crests and increase their chances. But again, it's not guaranteed because this is pretty much a loot box system. Now what he also does is he compares if you do not put any crests on there. This is probably what a lot of average players will have to do. You could also put in, I believe, some of the rare ones, which you get every single day, but most players will just go with nothing. The issue is once you do that, you get pretty much pointless gear, things that are just useless, especially if you rank up past 30, you scrap it, and that is about it. But if you want to be able to compete with the big dogs, the people that are going to be maybe playing in PvP and stuff, it's just, there's no balance in this game. You pay or you're screwed. That's the basic way I can put it. But continuing on with this Forbes article, in short, the legendary crest system is a loot box, only you must play through a dungeon first to open that loot box, as I mentioned. Rare crests only award legendary gems at the end of runs that are capped at 2 stars out of 5 stars total, and it's a low chance to even get those. And here's the stats, the most important things that you need to know. Legendary crests are the only place you can get 3 to 5 star gems, which is pretty much the best things that you can put on gear, where the more stars, the more power, obviously. And guess what? It's absolutely 100% a gacha loot box system, and these are the rates. 1 star, you get a 75% chance, 2 star, 20%, and then as all these mobile games work, 3 and 3.5 stars, 1%, 4.5, 0.2, 5 out of 5, the best legendary gems to put on your gear, 0.05. A reminder once again that these legendary gems, especially the ones that are higher rated in stars, they are extremely beneficial. They have powerful gameplay benefits that are great in PvP and also PvE, making the gameplay experience much more easier. And yes, there's a pity system like in most gacha games. Every 50 legendary crests will get you 1 guaranteed 5 star. Shame the $100 bundle of currency only gets you 45 crests. Again, by design by Blizzard's monetization team of psychologists. It is quite literally impossible to accumulate any significant amount of useful, uncapped legendary gems playing for free, so it is essentially like the 5 stages of the endgame don't exist at all without paying. A final build in Diablo Immortal at 40,000 to 100 $300,000 of gem hunting currency for max 5-star awakened everything. And just to put this into perspective so you understand how bad this is, we actually had a Twitch streamer who broke open his wallet. He spent $4,000 trying to get a 5-star gem. He didn't get a 4-star one either, and he spent, again, $4,000. And there's already whales out there who have already spent tens of thousands of dollars. I can only imagine how much they spent just to get their high-end character. It's ridiculous, and this is what Blizzard is enabling, and they know it and they don't care, because this was the whole intent with Diablo Immortal. Now here's one of the big issues with this whole ordeal. It's the fact that Blizzard has been kind of softening some of the concerns people have had with monetization for months. One of the lead developers on this project, one of the individuals who was in that infamous "Don't you guys have phones" clip, Wyatt Cheng, responded on, I believe it's the Blizzard forums, and he said, in Diablo Immortal, there's no way to acquire or rank up gear using money. This was a couple of months ago, 4 months ago to be exact. Now, the problem with that statement is the fact that while you cannot buy gear in Diablo Immortal, let's like you can't buy, let's just say certain types of armor, the gems that you attach to these pieces of armor come with extra benefits like more health, more damage, and so on and so forth. So in many ways, the gems in this game act as gear. And Wyatt Cheng responded to a tweet just the other day in which he was called out for this, and he said, "I've been pretty upfront in many interviews that gear was the 12 item slots. In many interviews, I also clearly state that money can advance gems and legendary gems. I'm sorry that wasn't clear here. Not being able to buy gear the 12 slots or XP remains important to the team. For what it's worth, I appreciate you checking out the game, blah, 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 blah." And he continues, somebody says, "I do actually have a question here. Isn't platinum used to buy gear on the marketplace?" And he says, "You can use platinum to buy/sell legendary gems, normal gems, and skill stones. You cannot buy gear nor the gear rank up materials on the market." So this is just extremely disingenuous in my opinion. Blizzard's trying to act like they are doing something respectful here. This is still a pay-to-win disaster, and this comes off as slimy, and I don't really understand what he's trying to say here, because you cannot buy a chest plate, but you have gems which pretty much act as gear, which have actual gameplay benefits. It literally makes no sense, the argument that he's trying to make here. And thus, you can understand why a lot of people are pretty much saying that Blizzard basically fucking lied about all of this. Wyatt Cheng was not the only Blizzard developer to chime in on the game's monetization. Senior game designer Scott Burgess denied any form of pay-to-win mechanics to GameSpot just a week ago. He said, "Going back, I played the beta without spending $1. There were a few of us on the team that did that because we wanted to see what the experience was like." Maybe this is something that should have been tested, a long time ago. And I will say that I was in a top dark house in the shadows. I kept up with World Paragon. I was competitive in PvP. I would often get the MVP ranking. So we're doing things to make sure the game is fun for everyone. Anytime we have a purchase, we want to make sure it's a good value. That's kind of the goal we have on that side. That's a load of bullshit, but the funny thing is there's actual gameplay videos out there showing individuals going up against others who have 5-star legendary gems on all of their gear, and guess what's happening to those individuals who are not breaking the bank open for Diablo Immortal? They are getting absolutely demolished because there is no balance with this game. Basically, what I am trying to say is you are absolutely fucked if somebody enters into a PvP match and they are fully decked out with all of the best items in the game. Items that you can purchase on up through loot boxes, and obviously you cannot compete against them unless you're willing to spend thousands of dollars and hoping you have some luck on your side. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the mobile gaming experience. That is what mobile gaming has been about for the last number of years, whether that be FIFA, whether that be MLB 9 innings, whether that be Raid Shadow Legends, whether that be this fucking atrocity. Now, just to put this into perspective so you understand how people are reacting to this, we have critics and we have fans. Fans are absolutely review bombing this game on Metacritic, as they should, and then critics are weirdly enough just ignoring the monetization side of this. This is a big problem that I see with a lot of reviews nowadays. They do not factor monetization into this, and I feel that is a huge factor in the review process, but that's just my perspective on things. We have comicbook.com giving the mobile experience, whether you're playing it to stay occupied until Diablo 4 comes out, or playing it out of excitement, Diablo Immortal is simply worth playing. If you have a couple $1,000s to spare, they gave the game a 90 out of 100. Another Turkish outlet gave it an 82. Android Central an 80. iMore 80. PC Magazine 80. CG Magazine 75. And right now, the game from critics has an average score of, I believe it's 81 out of 100. And that's just honestly ridiculous and, in my opinion, unacceptable. And now, on the other hand, users have been a lot more critical. The game has a 0.9 user score. And some of the top comments are, even if you think the pay-to-win aspects aren't that bad, or you're a whale that doesn't care about it, there's only a mediocre Diablo experience here, and that's pretty much true. I mean, it's just a bunch of fetch quests and nonsense. You go back and forth, you take out a dungeon, go to the next place. There's nothing too extraordinary here. It's a fun gameplay experience, but it's not doing anything that's really that revolutionary, in my opinion. Loot box filled money waster, you're better off going to 7-Eleven and buying lottery tickets. Yeah. Horrible, I will never touch this game again, and anyone that cares about any other Blizzard game shouldn't either. They are testing the waters on how far they can take these scamming practices, and if they are given support, then they will do this for all of their games. Shame on you, Blizzard. That is indeed the strategy. And these comments go on and on. You kind of get the idea of how users are taking out their frustration here on Metacritic. Now, for our last topic, this was something I was intending to talk about alone, but the tragedy that happened recently in Texas is something that has garnered a lot of reactions, and it has made its way to the video game industry. We obviously had the usual Fox News segment and politicians trying to scapegoat video games into this, trying to blame violent video games for this, even though psychologists have already debunked this point for years now. Still, it comes up because it's just an easy one to throw, and it takes away from the real issues. Well, we actually had a video game designer, a Blizzard developer, former Blizzard developer on World of Warcraft chime in with probably one of the worst all-time takes. He said, if you work on a video game that uses modern-day firearms to shoot other humans, you need a real hard look in the mirror tonight. See, the issue with comments like this, it sets a standard. It's something that politicians, these people who are trying to use video games and trying to, let's just say, regulate the violence in them, it gives them, ironically enough, it gives them ammunition to use against the video game industry. And I just find points like this extremely harmful. And we saw the entire video game industry chime in on this. This guy got dunked on. He had a Warhammer header on his Twitter account, and he worked on World of Warcraft. It's honestly just astonishing somebody like this would say something like this. But we had a Fortnite developer saying, yikes, not this antiquated take again. Seems to me like avoidance to acknowledge the actual root of the problem and rather shift the blame despite years worth of research and evidence to suggest this is not the case. We had a CDPR developer saying, because I played Mortal Kombat once, I now dropkick everyone in sight. I'm a public menace. No one is safe. Next, a TT Games developer saying, oh blank, I played Lego Star Wars the other day. I'm sure hope I don't start blasting people away. Effing moronic. A Rockstar Games developer saying, this is a joke, right? When are we going to stop placing the blame on everything except the real issue? And that's their point. A Ubisoft developer saying, this rhetoric has been disproven so many times at this point, and the majority of studies find games to be positive in many aspects of a child's development. Guns are the problem, always has been and always will be, not games. This specific tweet garnered a lot of support from video game developers, including some from Insomniac Games, Sony Santa Monica, Treyarch, and so on and so forth, all liking it. Another developer, this time an EA Apex Legends developer, saying, no, Russ, I think it's you who needs to look in the mirror. This rhetoric is wrong, and the fact that you, a senior leader in this industry, are pushing it is atrocious. Video games don't that. Guns do, period. We don't need game dev reform, we need gun control. And then Russ, he hit back saying, guns are a cultural problem in the US. The way we portray guns in the media is not the root cause, but it's also blind ignorance to say that glorification of that gun culture in the video games is not a contributor to desensitization. I want reform, our industry is not helping. And then this developer hit back saying, did you know Japan is the second largest market for Call of Duty? They also happen to have won that in the last 20 years. Want to know the difference between the two? Regardless of both regions playing the exact same game, you're saying is at fault gun laws. So this was something that was going on the other day, and again, this point of view is extremely dangerous to creativity and innovation within this video game industry, because I'm going to be honest, politicians like to scapegoat. They love to throw the blame at other things that are not really the issue, and video games, violent movies, music, that has been the scapegoat for years, and it does feel like we're getting closer and closer to somebody introducing a law to try to regulate violent video games just because of perspectives like this. Even though that they're outdated and have been disproven, they still keep popping up, and it really is annoying and frustrating because these individuals do not like looking at the research. That is a problem. But indeed, with this specific situation, we saw developers from this entire games industry hit back against it. From CD Projekt Red, Rockstar Games, Ubisoft, Bethesda, Valve, EA, and so on and so forth. Now, I understand certainly there are a lot of opinions on the issues that are happening in America about this specific problem, and all I'm going to say is, I think we all can agree that video games is not the problem, and the blame game that keeps getting thrown at this medium just needs to stop. Anyway, to put all this together, it has been an interesting week for Blizzard. Honestly, I imagine that there's going to be some changes made to Diablo Immortal. We'll see how that goes, but I highly doubt that they're going to scale it back entirely, in which they're not making as much money from the monetization. That was the whole point with Diablo Immortal. It's to suck as much money out of players' wallet as possible. And I'm not talking about a couple $100s. I'm not talking about a couple thousands. They're trying to attract those whales that'll spend upwards of maybe $30, $40, $50, $60, and so on and $4,000. That is the goal with these monetization games. That's what you should call Diablo Immortal. But yes, I do want to know your thoughts on this game down in the comment section below. I also want to know your thoughts on that developer's perspective on video games, in which he's trying to blame the video game medium for what's been happening in America the last number of years. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get in video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games. And again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this. I'll see you later.